College football week 10 is someone I think we'll look back on. And I say this every year, but I haven't really said it much on the show this season. There's always these like hypothetical people out there that like to talk about, what if this team goes undefeated? This team does this.
Five different teams go undefeated.
Yeah. It's like, and then we have absolute chaos. I'm like, just wait.
And then they lose immediately.
Yeah, just wait and watch it all play out, because teams, like, at some point, if you're not the elite of the elite, you falter. You play good teams. Eventually you're going to have a bad game. You go on the road, you lose. And like we saw that Kansas State, Clemson, Penn State, Texas A&M, there was upsets up and down the board, some that we talked about and some that we didn't talk about. What was your biggest takeaway from week 10 though?
I'm good at this. I think every single big game I nailed. I mean, South Carolina outright, Louisville. I didn't say Louisville outright, but I said, and then Ohio State. I think what I took away, if you're taking away anything in terms of a college football landscape as a whole, is the Big Ten. Maybe outside of Oregon. I'll leave them out of this for now, but they're still, we still have to watch them. It is awful. I mean, I know the SEC is quote unquote down, but the Big Ten is just still not even close. Penn State, you are exactly who I thought you were. James Franklin hasn't changed a bit. Last year, this year, incredible talent. And the worst part for Penn State fans is how do you fire a guy, that consistently gets you double-digit wins? You're never going to win a national championship with him, but he's consistently, finishing in the top 10. It's the worst spot to be in as a fan, where you're like, yeah, we're good, but we know we can't be great under this guy. And that's what I learned is, Penn State's going to, if you want to get over the hump, if you want to win a national championship for the first time in forever, you're going to have to go back first. You're going to have to fire James Franklin, because he can't do it. He's not going to do it. He's shown you who he is.
Yeah, that Penn State game.
Awful.
You think about the last possessions of each half for Penn State. The last possession of the second half, James Franklin does this thing where he coaches scared. There's a minute left in the half, right? You're on the other side of Ohio State. You're 4th and 1. You have made the decision that you are going to go for it, but you don't want to give Ohio State too much time. So you kill 30 seconds off the clock so you can go for it with 30 seconds instead of a minute, because you're afraid that if you don't get it, it's just it's coaching scared.
Yeah.
It's coaching scared one-on-one. You should be trying to save time because you have confidence that you're going to be able to get a yard. You have enough confidence to go for it. So you should have enough confidence to go all in. It's this entire, especially in these big games where it's it takes a little bit of a gumption, a little bit of faith in your team to win them, to upset in Ohio State. You just have none of that. And this is why they fall short every single time, because you want to know how that drive plays out? They go and get the first down. Oh my God, they get down to the goal line. Oh, but they have 10 seconds left. So they have to throw the ball at the goal line because they have no timeouts and 10 seconds left. They have to be more aggressive than they would if they had 35, 40 seconds left. Mm-hmm. They end up throwing an interception, get no points out of the drive. That's squarely on the fact that James Franklin is coaching scared and is a coward. It's squarely on the fact. And then at the end of the half, they run it 3 times, or at the end of the game, 3 times straight up the middle, 3 times, and then go for it with a 2-man awfully designed route. And that's not necessarily on James Franklin because he's not the OC, but it's the entire antithesis of what they are under James Franklin. They are scared to make mistakes. They are scared to think outside of the box, and it's just never changed. You've been here for a decade and you think you'd learn something? No, you still want to play and try to beat teams one single way that does not win anymore. And they have never get out of their way in these big games. And yes, James Franklin, unbelievably pathetic coaching performance in a game of that magnitude where you've had 10 tries, you know what it takes to win, you know what to do.
That's the thing that baffles me is that he has lost his entire career to the big ones, quote unquote, the big ones, Michigan when they were going on the run, Ohio State, Penn State loses those games, and you would think that it's kind of to the point where it's well, we have nothing to lose because we always lose to them, so we're going to try something different. They don't. They go, no, we're going to stick to what we do, and it's clearly not worked. I don't know how anybody at Penn State, talking boosters, the AD, whoever is in a decision-making position, can sit here today with confidence in James Franklin. If you're satisfied with making, the 14 playoff Rose Bowl, where you're just not there, but you had a good season, then that's fine. But I don't know how you sit here as a competitive, you got competitive juices and are just okay being the runner-up in your conference. And it's not going to end now with Oregon in it. Like it might be, that maybe Ohio State has a down year and maybe Penn State has a good year. No, that's not the case anymore because Oregon is here and they're not going to have a down year. James Franklin, it's a hard decision to make. I think you got to let him go if you're ever going to get over that hump.
So I'm going to go for my biggest takeaway. Actually, I'm going to stick in the same conference, and it's those little guys. It's Indiana. And Indiana has been unbelievable this season. And yes, they haven't played anyone, but you can also
not going to.
Yes, but the way they play Ohio State. The way that they win, though, you cannot ignore, right? Like we've been asking teams to go out there and dominate. And if you put Oregon in the same schedule as Indiana or Ohio State, and they were going out there and winning the way that Indiana was, we would be talking about them like they were the hottest thing since sliced bread, whether they deserve it or not, right? But because it's Indiana doing this, everyone's waiting for a slip up. And they go out there, fall down 10-0 to Michigan State, not a great football team, but then they rattle off 47 straight points in a game where they were only, touchdown favorites. And they've won every single game by 14 plus points. And whatever you want to say, like this is an impressive team that I think is being slept on. I think they're being slept on. And I think they have a good chance of beating Ohio State. And I think they could even beat Oregon. Like I just think they are just as good as those teams. And I think it's time we start talking about them in those teams, because as we've seen, no team is elite.
No,
You're right. No team. And listen, Indiana might lose those games, but they deserve to be mentioned like a college football playoff team and a contender in the Big Ten, because they are a legitimate contender in the Big Ten.
I would pat Indiana on their head and say, get out of here, kiddo, because that couldn't be further from the truth. And it's a good story. Signetti's awesome. He's a hell of a character. Indiana hasn't had a pulse in that program for my entire life. It's an awesome story. They are good. I think there's just tiers to this, and I think Ohio State is going to handle them. But Georgia, Florida, talking about, there aren't any good teams in the country. In terms of parity, this is, if you enjoy parity, unless you're a Bama fan, a Georgia fan who wants to dominate, this has been the best season in college football, and it hasn't even been close. The parity across the country, across the conferences, and up and down the conferences is just elite. DJ Lagway, and a lot of Georgia fans are going to, roast me for this, and I don't really care. DJ Lagway doesn't get hurt. You are sitting here either one thinking, thank the Lord we escaped Jacksonville with that win, or you're thinking, how in the hell did we lose to Billy Napier?
No.
DJ Lagway was cooking in Jacksonville on Saturday.
DJ Lagway doesn't get hurt, Georgia doesn't win this football game.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's even a discussion. And it wasn't just DJ Lagway. I mean, Florida lost like half of their offense, half of their team in that game. They were legitimately playing with a third-string quarterback, multiple second and third stringers across the board. And Georgia still is sitting here thanking their lucky stars. So
I mean, that game was a one-score game with 5 or 6 minutes left.
No, they're still thanking their lucky stars that they got out of there with a win. So yes, Lagway doesn't go down. Some of those other pieces don't go down. Georgia loses that football game. And it's just a reminder that as good as Georgia looked against Texas, they're not unbeatable. They're nowhere close to unbeatable. This is the worst Georgia team we've seen in quite some time. And it's time to have a serious conversation about Carson Beck and what Carson Beck is for this Georgia program, because he seems to be the sole person holding this team back from reaching their full potential. And I don't know how much longer you can sit there and keep throwing him out there. Because if he goes out there against Ole Miss and you play Ole Miss this week and you get blown out, like now you don't have that cushion for the rest of the season. You have to win out to make the college football playoff. And Carson Beck doesn't play good. He already has 11 picks on the season, most of which have come on 1st and 10, which is just unacceptable. Like, are we talking about a legitimate quarterback controversy? Because I really think you are. I don't think we're that far off. And you got a big game this week, and then you have Tennessee right after that. So,
and these aren't, this ain't your daddy's Ole Miss in Tennessee, where we're used to these high scoring affairs, Heupel and Kiffin's offenses. The script has been flipped. Ole Miss's defense is the strength. Tennessee's defense is the strength. And Carson Beck, he'll be the first to tell you, he hasn't played nearly well enough. He has regressed significantly from last year. I don't think anybody can debate that. He's making terrible decisions. He looks like he has no confidence. He looks like he doesn't trust the weapons. And you're seeing what a kind of guy like Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers does for a quarterback, where you're just thinking, my guy's going to get open. I don't care what the defense is running. I trust Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey. I don't know whether it's a Bobo, a Beck, a skill. I mean, I think it's a combination of most of those things I just mentioned, but Beck looks like it's his first time starting. And I mean, this was the year that everybody thought Beck was going to put it together and be squarely in the conversation for a top 5 pick. This guy is not even a day 2 pick right now. And that's not to say he can't get better, but he's going to have to get better and quickly. Ole Miss this weekend in Oxford, and I'm the guy who craps on Vaught, but they're going to be fired up for that game. And then you got Tennessee at home. Thankfully, that game for Georgia fans is at home. But that Tennessee defense is absolutely for real, and so is the Ole Miss defense. So it doesn't get any easier for Georgia and Beck.
No, I mean, and we'll talk about this Ole Miss matchup throughout the week. We'll have some guests on here that talk about it that played for Georgia, but I'm not looking at the lines. I haven't looked at the spread. I like Ole Miss to win that game from what I've seen. I've seen, this is a team that is going to be desperate. They are playing this at home. That is a scary matchup that didn't look so scary a couple of weeks ago. But Ole Miss, I think, is the team that deserves to be favored in that matchup. I never thought I would have said that.